Hey guys, Chad Hoover. Welcome to today's video. We're going to do a little bit closer look at the Jackson Knarr. Fish on. That's a toad, brother. Golly. All right, so if you guys saw my first video where I got a chance to jump into the Jackson Knarr with Richard Penny, one of the reps, when I was down on Guntersville, I didn't really get to do a thorough run through of the boat. So I made it here to ICAST. So what I want to do is be able to jump in the boat, give you guys a better look at the features, a better look at the performance. We actually did a really good job of going through the features. So what I'll do is I'll put the link to that last video in the description box below. Y'all can check that out if you're interested in the features. What I want to do is go back out and get a better feel for how it pedals, how it paddles, and some of the things that I wasn't able to accomplish when I did my initial review down on Lake Guntersville. So we're going to jump in this boat while we're here at ICAST 2022, take a closer look at it, and then I hope to get a production model of this so I can check out rigging and outfitting and all that stuff in the third video in the series. But for now, we're going to get out on the water and check out the performance of the Jackson Knarr.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Chad?
All right, guys, so I'm back out on the water, and I'm gonna pedal this thing around, and I'm gonna get Austin to get the drone up in the air so we can show you kind of some of the stuff from overhead. As you can see now how the background's kind of passing behind me, I've got the rudder kicked to one side. It's got really good rudder authority, which is one of the things you always kind of want to evaluate on a pedal-driven kayak. So most of the stuff that I said in the first video really holds true. There was a question that I got from quite a few folks about how I looked like I was paddling awkward. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I didn't really get the seat adjusted correctly that first time, and it was super windy out. But I'm gonna give you an update on that by switching the camera around and kind of showing you the cockpit view, and then tell you where I still think there's a little bit of room for improvement. Of course, the folks at Jackson are already aware of this and they're working on it, but anyway, here, let me just flip the camera around and show you what I mean. All right, guys, so now that I got the camera flipped around and the helos and the drones have gone, let me show you kind of the only thing that I would say that people brought up in the videos. If you notice when I'm pedaling how my knee kind of has to go out a little bit, and the reason for that is these arms on the crank arm are kind of long, in my opinion. I think if they reduce this about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, which again, I've given all of this feedback to Jackson, that would really help for long leg guys like myself. And it may not be an issue for shorter folks, but when you've got long legs, on the upstroke, when you bring your back leg back, it really forces you to bring that knee up kind of high, which has a tendency to make people want to recline their seat back so that their knee doesn't hit their PFD. And then it just makes for an uncomfortable experience because you're sitting in kind of like a half lean. The other thing that you could do to accomplish this, if you didn't want to adjust that crank right there, is if you raise the seat height up a little bit and just made this riser a little bit taller, what that would do is it would give you more of a downward angle to the pedal drive, and therefore your knee rotation and the arc of your foot wouldn't be as big a deal. Other than that, pretty much everything from my initial impression still, holds true. The thing is super stable. The boat has got a huge open cockpit. The tri-tracks is pretty clever. The little bin up there is pretty sweet. It's got really great rudder authority. And again, I don't have as much a problem pedaling it. Actually, I don't have any problem pedaling it now. But the problem that I had before is that I didn't adjust the pedal stroke accurately, or the seat distance accurately, so I didn't have the best pedal arc that I could have. That all being said, again, the last takeaway, and I will have to spend a good day on the boat when I have the time, is I think if this crank was just a little bit shorter, it would probably address it all. But I think that the first thing that I would attack is and I'll cut to the cutaway of this after we get off the water and show you what I'm talking about, but I think you could put a spacer or something under the seat and get it up a good inch, 2 inches, maybe even 3 inches, because the boat has plenty, let's see as I'm rocking here, it's got plenty of stability to support being in a higher position, and I just think it would make for an overall more comfortable experience. Other than that, the layout's fantastic. Actually, let me flip the camera back around. Other than that one little thing, and again, it's one of the things that you guys pointed out in the video, the layout's fantastic, the rigging opportunities is great, the seat's comfortable. Again, I think it should be a little higher. The pedal drive is smooth as butter. I mean, honestly, This thing is super responsive. The pedal drive has got a lot of power. The flex drive generates a lot of power. So you get plenty of speed. You get everything you need. Again, if I'm gonna be nitpicky, which is my job, then I think that there should be something to address the length of the pedal or the height of the seat, and one of those two things together would help make it a much more pleasurable pedaling experience. All right, guys, so after my second outing in the Jackson Knarr, when it comes to my thoughts on the layout, the riggability, the functionality, the stability, everything is still pretty much the same. The first chance that I got to pedal this thing was in 35-mile-an-hour winds in Guntersville. I didn't have a chance to really adjust the seat. We wet launched it and I just jumped in. And in that video, and even thinking back on it myself, when I was pedaling the boat, I was too close to the pedal drive, which was kind of forcing my knees to go out a little bit weird. So I compensated for that by just loosening the seat up a little bit and going into a little bit of a recline, which is the number one thing that I encourage people not to do when they're in a pedal drive kayak, because if you loosen the seat straps up and you're leaned back, you're now sitting in like a half crunch. You're actually straining forward with your neck and you're reaching forward with your hands when you're fishing. So you're basically got your entire body in a flex. So at the end of the day, if you're pedaling a pedal drive kayak and you feel like you got beat up, it's probably because you did. You basically worked out your entire body all day long, and then you add rocking water into that. Now you're in a flex and a crunch and you're cycling nonstop. So all your muscles are firing nonstop. So getting out here on the lake at ICAST, again, was a better experience. There is some wind out here, so I got to still see how the wind was going to react. I honestly thought the first time I saw this boat that the height of the gunnels was going to make it a lot more vulnerable to the wind, but because of the way the pedal drive and the rudder work, you don't really have that issue. So I do like the fact that there are the rudder handles on both sides, because a left-handed guy like me that grew up in a right-handed world, I change a lot. If I'm fishing a right bank, I'll cast left-handed. If I'm fishing a left bank, I'll cast right-handed. So having that ability is pretty cool. And so overall, from a layout standpoint, from getting the most out of the cockpit and all that, I love what Jackson's done with this boat. But you guys come to me to say, all right, Chad, what did you not like? All right, your pros and your nos. And so the one thing that still isn't 100% dialed in for me is, and again, I'm built like a bullfrog. If you measured me from the waist down, I'm like 6'5", but overall I'm only 6'1" because I have a short torso. So that does factor into it. And I'm a little bit of a robust gentleman. I'm a little bit rotund. And a lot of y'all,
just call you fluffy.
A lot of y'all look a lot more like me than you do like Will. So here's the thing. You can still set up vertically. You can still generate power. You can still be comfortable. But if I bought this boat today, and again, this is one of the great things about this industry, is you can give the feedback directly to the people that work in the company and that can affect change, and they listen. I would probably create a riser, either a 1-inch or 2-inch riser, probably make it out of, you know, some 80/20 or this tri-track that Jackson makes, just to get that boat up just enough to where now it changes that downward angle of my legs. It changes the arc of the rotation of my ankle bone and my heel bone, but more importantly, it gets that ankle bone, hip bone, knee bone rotation downhill from my hip, which is what you really want to try to accomplish. Now, there's a couple of other things you can do. You can throw a couple of kayak cushions on here, which will raise you up a little bit, and you still got plenty of seat back height. So overall, I would add this boat to my arsenal tomorrow. It's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be for as big as it is, as feature rich as it is, and it's still plenty sturdy. I jumped in one of the red boats that's out here, and that's the new production run boat. When you look at some of these late phase prototypes, they're a little bit more flexible. You're still dialing in the shot weight, which is the amount of resin or plastic that you put into the mold. And so I think Jackson's even got that dialed in. There were a few people when the boats first came out that got a little bit of a softer hull, so that question's been out there. This boat is like that because it's one of those older boats. That red boat, I think that's Jameson's actual road boat for his TV show. That boat's solid as this dock right here. So anytime you develop a new platform and it's a huge departure from what you've done before as a company, you're going to find things as you develop it. But one of the things that I'll tell you that's really cool about Jackson is they're on the water every day. The people that work at the company do it. Will kayak fishes, Jameson kayak fishes, the folks at the company kayak fish. And so they're going to get out there and experience this stuff just like you do. And it's kind of like an artist who can never walk away from a painting. They're never really happy with it. That's the way kayak companies are. There's always something to be improved. And what happens when you develop a great community like we have at Kayak Bass Fishing, like Jackson has with their community, there's that direct relationship between the consumer and between the manufacturer. So I'm excited to see the further evolution of this boat. But if I was to say, just off of my second impression, I definitely would add this boat to my arsenal. I definitely think it's worth the price point. That was another question that came up. People thought it was maybe too much. There's just so many pieces and parts and so much assembly time and things that go into this boat. The fact that it's basically bow mount ready, the fact that it's responsive to the bow mount, the fact that that bow mount can be on there but you still have plenty of volume so that the nose is not going underwater if you hit a wave. This is definitely a boat that you can use offshore, inshore. You can use it in rivers. You can use it for a little bit of everything. So, man, I think you guys got a home run here. Again, I'm a little bit peculiar. I'm going to point out the things for the folks like you, folks like me that are out there. Yeah, because I'm long-legged, I'd probably create a little bit of a riser. I think that down the road, Jackson will probably come up with some, answer to that, or some remedy to that, or some option for that. But by and large, right now, just like it is, I take it fishing. So
we appreciate you, Chad.
Good job, man. So there it is, guys. That's my my second overview. A little bit more time on the water, a little bit better conditions. I got to get the boat dialed in a little bit more. From a layout standpoint, this thing is it's in the stratosphere. From a maximizing the use of space, it's in the stratosphere. Outfitting, clean, everything, killed it. Again, seat height, pedal stroke, and again, I'm not a real pedal drive guy. So the best thing you can do when it comes to a boat that's this specialized is to do what I'm doing right now, is to get out there and get your butt in the boat, find a local dealer, find a buddy that's got one, make a post up on any of the numerous groups out there that if there's somebody that's got one. There's Jackson Pro Staffers all over the country, so you can post up and ask those guys if they have the one that they can let you try. Or like I said, just go to the Jackson website, click on the dealer tab, find a dealer near you, and set up a demo, because the best way to make sure that you're going to be happy with the boat is to try before you buy.